Hi guys, welcome to our 50th webinar. We've come a long way. We started on the 20th of August last year, and in this 1 year, we have created a repository of 50 hours of strategies, of discussions on difficult questions, that is, of time-saving strategies of how to reduce your calculations, etc. Right? So you guys have the recordings of all the webinars available to you. So I would strongly recommend you to go through all of them. Even if you are a little short on time, then I would, maybe perhaps you can do it passively. For example, in case you don't have the time in your regular study hours, perhaps while waiting for a restaurant at a restaurant for a friend, or say in case you're during your commute, sometime just try to find out some time in which you can go through the webinar, even if you're not actively able to solve the questions as such. When I give you a couple of minutes to try it out on your own, perhaps you can just read through it. And anyway, I suggest you to not use the pen and pencil where possible. So then try to orally get the answer and then go through the discussion, right? It will help you a lot. It will help you get in that mind frame. So in any case, let's start today's webinar. We are discussing MSR today. Now, there was this one question that I had my eye on for quite a while, and we're going to take that up today. It's the farmer and the water pump question. And, I think a lot of people find it extremely hard, but it's not that big of a problem. Yeah. So let's discuss it in detail today. I'll share my screen with you now. All right. So here is the question. Let me know if it is visible to everybody. Let me know if there is a problem. Yeah. Yeah, the Q&A has been enabled. So in case there is any problem, let me know in there. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll discuss the question stem first, and then as in we'll discuss what is given to us in the tabs, and then we'll go on to one question at a time. Now, yes, I did put both the tabs next to each other for our convenience while solving the question, as in, we can't, I didn't want to have an active element over here because I wanted the whiteboard as well. So in that sense, it does make this question a little easier. I do understand, since the diagram is also right next to us, even when I have tab 1. But we'll discuss, we've discussed in MSR strategy in a previous webinar that there are two ways to attempt an MSR question, right? One is where you look at one tab, you note down the relevant data of that tab, and then you go on to the other one, which has the diagram or the table or whatever, and then just stick to that. But there is like the other method would be where you do not note down any data, because there is a lot of data in multiple tabs. Like, for example, you might have 3 tabs and 2 of them might have tables or diagrams or something. So then you can't really spend your time making a whole table or diagram. So then, what do you use for which question? Now that is the point. And we have discussed before that you must, the moment you get an MSR question, you must go through each tab to figure out exactly what is given in each tab. Yeah. When I don't have to start reading tab 1. Of course, I see what, I just look at maybe 1 or 2 sentences, but I have to go on to my other 2 tabs also. And why? Again, this is a learning that we have had, right? Where, let's say, we saw certain data and we thought, okay, making a diagram will be really convenient here because, we love visual representations, right? But then we realized that the diagram was given in another tab. So really, we didn't need to make the diagram at all. So then our first step whenever we get an MSR question would be to see what is there in each tab. Yeah, and then we can start going through the first tab properly. And again, once we know what is there in each tab, then we can take a call on whether we need to write down the data or not, right? Then we can think about that. Okay. So when we see this question and, I go to my tab 1 and I go to my tab 2, so I see that there is this particular diagram over there, fine. And, something about water tanks, something about water pumps, so I'll see what it is, right? We start working through our tab 1 first of all. Let's say farmers often depend on elevated water storage tanks to supply water for irrigation using gravity and pipes. Okay, now, it does seem to be a whole lot technical, but then whatever technicalities we need, we know that that will be given to us in a GMAT question. If it is a live GMAT question that you've got, there is no way. Look, everyone taking the test is not an engineer, so there is no way they are going to expect you to know all these things. So whatever is required, they'll tell you. So just keep your patience and evaluate one line at a time. So they are saying that farmers depend on elevated water storage tanks to supply water for irrigation using gravity and pipes. So, they'll store water in an elevated tank, and then using gravity, of course, the water will come down through pipes and then it will go for irrigation. Whatever they do, I don't have to worry much about it, because whatever is required, they'll tell me. Yeah. The tanks are filled using a pump that draws water up from a source through a pipe. Now, I know that there is a diagram on the second page where there is something about a water tank and something about a water pump. So maybe I'll just flip to the second tab and I'll see, all right, there is a water source over here, there is a pump over here, and then they've made a water tank, and then there is this irrigation system. Fine. I look at it in detail, but what I do know is that this in the tanks are filled using a pump. So then, filled using a pump, and there is that tank, and draws water up from a source through a pipe. So it draws water up from a source. This is my water source through a pipe. The pump does this, draws water up through a pipe, and then fills up the water tank. Yeah. And then from the water tank, the water will go to the irrigation system, essentially that system which is going to spread water across the field. There'll be multiple pipes attached to it, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay, the pumps used are rated for their ability to move water through systems of pipes of certain sizes and designs. So now the pumps have a rating given to us, yeah? Whatever it will be, we'll get to know. In the United States, this rating is expressed in either pounds per square inch, so either PSI, they say, or vertical feet. So the rating for a pump, they have given us that rating is going to be either in PSI terms, like for example, 10 PSI, 20 PSI, whatever, or it is going to be in terms of vertical feet. So again, 30 feet, 40 feet, whatever it is, right? So this or this, all right. Now, what does each mean? Again, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Now, note that in a vertical column of water, the pressure at the bottom is about 0.43 psi per vertical foot in the column. So now we have been given certain data. It says that pressure at the bottom in a column is about 0.43 psi per foot. Yeah? Whatever that means, it is saying pressure at the bottom of a vertical column is 0.43 psi per foot. Now, all I have is this data. I'll see how to use it. That is a pump rated for X feet. Now, we said that the rating of a pump is either in PSI or in feet or in vertical feet. So they're saying that if the pump is rated for X feet, that is if, on the pump, like for example, when I go to the store to buy a pump, and there I have to see what kind of a pump I need, right? So there will be lots of different varieties of pumps over there, and there'll be a rating to each pump. Yeah. Guys, try to visualize whenever you're given some data, because GMAT has a lot of questions from real life. It'll help in case you visualize it. Yeah, the words are not just words, they'll make sense to you. So here I'm thinking, okay, rating of a pump, it means that, there'll be something written to, like, for example, for a lot of, when we buy whatever machines we may buy, there's going to be a kilowatt rating or something, some kind of rating is there, right? So I'll decide what kind of, I want to buy machinery or whatever. So then similarly, a pump will have a rating as well, and the rating will be either in terms of PSI or in terms of feet. Now they're telling us what is the meaning of, when a pump is rated for, let's say, X feet. It says that a pump rated for X feet, so basically we're talking about this particular kind of rating, can operate a pumping system of up to X total vertical feet. So can operate a pumping system up to up to X total vertical feet. So for example, in case this is 20 feet, for example, I have a pump which is rated 20 feet, that means that it can operate for a vertical, distance of 20 feet. Yeah. Now, for example, the total vertical feet of a pumping system of the type above is the sum of, so when, and what is this 20 feet equal to? X feet, whatever. What is this equal to? It is the sum of what all the vertical distance of the pipe between the surface of the water source and the pump. So look, this is my surface of the water source. Do I see over here? Look at this diagram that we have. So this is the surface of the water source, and then this is the pump. So this pipe, basically they are saying that the vertical distance of the pipe between the surface and the pump, vertical distance of the pipe between the pump and the top of the elevated tank, then I see that they're talking about this particular distance from here to here, from the pump to the top of the tank, right? So they're saying that it is this particular distance from the water source up to the pipe, up to the pump, and this particular distance, and the resistance from friction when water moves through the pipes, which is increased by angle pipes and smaller diameter pipes, expressed in vertical feet as a measure of the pump's resultant loss in capacity. So they're saying that there are three things, and this I know that this is this particular distance, right? This is this particular distance, fine. And then there is another term that gets added when I say that the rating of this pump is 20 feet. There are three things that are getting added. Let's say it is this particular distance, which is, for example, say 5 feet over here. So let's take it as 5. Plus, it is saying that this is this particular distance. We don't know what it is over here. It's not given. Let's take it as 10 feet. Fine. And then it is also the resistance from friction. And this is expressed in terms of vertical feet as a measure of the pump's resultant loss in capacity. So whatever that may be, let's say this is also another 5 feet. Yeah. So, I don't have to worry about how do they calculate this 5 feet or this particular expression vertical feet based on the friction, etc., because that is not given to me. So I don't have to worry about that how do I do that particular calculation. All I know is that when I say that the rating of a pump is 20 feet, it consists of three things I've been given. One is this particular distance, vertical distance from the water source to the pump. Second is from the pump to the top of the water tank. And third is the resistance, because of resistance, it has to overcome. So it needs a little more power to push the water up. And that is also expressed in terms of vertical feet only. So that I can just add all three quantities together, right? So my 20 is made of this 5, 10, and 5. Now, this is the data which is available to me in my tab 1, right? Makes sense? Is any issue in what is given to me? Forget about what we are going to do with it. But any issues in understanding what exactly is given to us? If there are questions that in my head at this point, okay, how do we calculate this or how do we calculate that? I don't have to worry about that, because if they have not given it to me, they're not going to ask me. Right? Don't try to, and if you are an engineering graduate, for example, don't try to recall, hey, what did I study in fluid mechanics? And because there are a lot of people who are from humanities background and they're also looking at the same question, and GMAT is going to ensure that they are able to solve it as well. So they know that there are people who've never done fluid mechanics, for example, right? So then don't worry too much about that. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll come to our tab 2. Now, a farmer in the United States is constructing a pumping system which, with an elevated water tank to support a gravity-fed irrigation system. Now, they're saying gravity-fed irrigation system. It makes sense, right? Here is the pump. They're pulling water up from the water source. Then they're pulling water up into the water tank using the pump again. And then the water will flow down through gravity, right? And then there's this irrigation system, and then there'll be a lot of pipes connected which will take water all across the field. So they're using a water pump and they're using gravity to create that irrigation system. Okay, now the farmer has the following in place: the irrigation system, which requires at least 10 pounds per square inches of pressure at its inlet to operate. Now, look, typically if I have a question like this, I will make a diagram of my own so that I can mark whatever I need. Yeah, but then since we don't have too much of space over here, what I'll try to do is I'll try to mark whatever is required in this diagram itself. Yeah, so here they are telling us that the irrigation system, which requires at least 10 pounds per square inch, which is PSI. So what I need is of pressure at the inlet. So this irrigation system at its inlet, it needs what? It needs 10 PSI. Right now, when I say it needs 10 PSI, I haven't been given much data in terms of PSI, but I do know one thing, that PSI, 0.43 PSI is equal to 1 foot, right, of the water column. So I know that when they say that I need 10 psi, it also means that this should be equal to, in case the water tank is full, for example, then this should be equal to 10 upon 0.43. Do you remember from where this 0.43 came? Because we wrote down, we have been given that pressure 0.43 of psi is equal to 1 foot, 1 vertical foot in the column, right? We've been given this data over here. Okay, so then I know that over here, the pressure that I need is 10 psi at least, or I can say that the height of this column should be 10 upon 0.43, which is something more than 20. Again, at this point, I'm not going to do this calculation, but I know that in case this were 0.5, right? If it were 0.5, then this would be 20, but this is less than 0.5. So I know that this entire distance, and that is assuming that the water tank is full, should be greater than, or should be greater than 20, whatever greater than 20, right? Again, I'll do the calculation in case I'm required to do the calculation. All right. Now, a pump that can draw 50 gallons of water per minute. So this pump can draw how much water? 50 gallons per minute. And look, that is why I said that I would make a diagram of my own, because I would want to maybe put this data inside over here, but here there's no space, so I'm not going to do that. But otherwise, it just makes everything really clear. Yeah, I don't need to make it blue. I don't need to write pump inside over here, and everything becomes much clearer. So in any case, now, from the source, and that has a rating of 58 vertical feet, meaning it can operate a pumping system having up to 58 total vertical feet. We discussed what the rating of 20 was, right? We said that was 5 plus 10 plus 5. Do you remember when we discussed the stab 1? Now, here the rating of this pump is 58, which means that this distance of 5, yeah, plus this entire distance, whatever it is, plus whatever is lost through resistance, those three terms would add up to 58. Yeah, maximum should be 58. Okay, so let me just write down 58 feet as well over here. That is the rating of this particular pump. Okay. Now, an 8-foot tall water tank with 10,500 gallons capacity. So this is 8. Now I know that this particular height is 8, right? 8 feet tall water tank. And it has capacity of 10,500 gallons capacity. Fine. Now, the farmer has yet to choose the diameter of the irrigation pipe. So the diameter of these pipes is not known. The diagram specifies the heights and lengths the farmer has in place. Those not specified have yet to be determined. So there are some things that he's given us. This is 5 feet, he says. This is from the irrigation system. This is 4 feet. And the water tank's height is 8 feet, he says, right? Now, the systems sit on level ground approximately 1 foot above the surface of the water source. So you're saying that the system, this level ground, that is 1 foot above the source, above the water source. And that kind of now makes sense, because this means that the pump and the irrigation system are in line, because this is 1 foot as well. So then this much is again 4 feet. And this I know is already given to be 4 feet, right? So basically I have, look, if I were to make a small diagram or small separate diagram just for clarity, I'll do that over here. Let's say I have my water source over here. This is my water source. Then I have the entire system is sitting over here. Yeah. So this is my pump over here, P, right? And this distance is how much? This is my 4 feet. Why? Because this entire thing is here, this is 5 feet, and this I have been given that this is 1 foot. So then this entire thing is 4 feet, right? And then I have my water tank over here, and the height of the water tank is 8. So just this height is 8. Of course, it's till the top. And I have my irrigation system. Irrigation system is in line with the pump. So here is my irrigation system. And the irrigation system is also 4 feet above the ground. So here, basically over here. Yeah. And I said that I need a 10 psi, which means that I need the entire thing from here to here more than 20 feet. Yeah. And, 10 upon 0.43, as we said, we can do the exact calculation if required. Fine. So then this is what it looks like. Any doubts over here? Makes sense, right? This is, again, just this diagram, a simplistic diagram, just for us to see all the heights. Yeah. All right. Now let's look at the question. Let me just reduce. Yeah. Now, assume that with the farmer's plan, the resistance from friction in the system will contribute exactly 5 vertical feet to the system's total. So I know that his pump is 58 feet rating pump. So that is 58. And we said there were these 3 quantities, this, and this. I have been given that this is 5 feet. Yeah. So over here plus 5. The last one, the resistance. Again, as I said, I don't care how they converted it into vertical feet. They have given me the data that this is equal to 5 vertical feet. So great, I'm good. Now, for each of the following possible heights from the surface of the water source to the top of the tank, from the surface of the water source, so from over here to the top of the tank, which means that till here, right? From here till here. Okay, for each of the following possible heights from the surface of the water source to the top of the tank, select yes if it meets the constraints of the plan as specified, otherwise select no. The thing from here till here, what all is possible? So I know that the other 2 quantities over here plus this can at most add up to 53. Right? This can at most add up to 53. So then, of course, my 60 feet is certainly not possible. This is a no. We know that, right? This from here to here, this height cannot be 60 feet. Okay, it can be 40 feet, fine, but can it be 20 feet? From here to here, can it be 20 feet? Now, look, they have given us that the pressure required over here is 10 psi, which we said is, which gives us that this vertical column, this one that is required is something greater than 20 psi. Yeah. And when I add another 5 to it, it is for sure I need this entire height to be something more than 25 feet. Yeah. So that is why my 20 feet is also not possible. And 40 feet is possible because it lies, if that is that 10 upon 0.43 is more than 20, but it'll be like a little bit more than 20, some 22, 23, 24 maximum, right? So that plus my 5, let's assume it is 24, for example, and plus my 5 will give me 29. So then, of course, 20, from 29 till 53, anything is possible. So my 40 feet is certainly possible, right? Any doubts over here? I'll give you a minute, just think about it. Any doubts? Do you understand this really well? No doubts? Are we good? Should we go on to the next question? All right, fine. So then let's go on to the next questions. Okay, now try this question on your own. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Try this question out. You can share your answer with me in the Q&A in case you wish to. Not sure, guys. Okay, let's look at it together then. The farmer is considering replacing the water pump that is in place. Okay, the one which is in place had 58 psi rating, right? And also something about we also need something about 50 gallons per minute, right? So we know two things about the pump. It's 50 gallons per minute. Is the water that it can pump up, and the rating is 58 psi. With one that has the same rating, which means that the new pump will also have a 58 psi, but cannot pump as many gallons per minute. So the amount of water that it is going to pump per minute is going to be lesser, right? So maybe it is going to be, for example, say 40 gallons per minute. We're just assuming any value over here, which means that the power of the pump is lower, right? It is going to bring up from the water source, it's bringing the water up, right? It is going to bring up lesser water per minute. So it will take, let's say, in case, that it's for example, if I have to, let's say, bring up 100 gallons of water, it'll take more time, right? Because it's bringing up lesser water per minute up. Yeah. Okay, now for each of the, but its rating is exactly the same. So those, that height and plus the resistance converted into vertical feet is total is still going to be 58 psi only. Okay, for each of the following statements, select yes if according to the information provided. Now this is an important a phrase given to you, according to the information provided, right? So whatever call we make has to be made as per the information given to us. We do not have to try and get our information of fluid mechanics in and try in case, okay, I'll tell you why. It describes a likely result of this change, otherwise select no. So I have to select yes if according to the information provided, it describes a likely result of this change, otherwise select no, which means that I have to say yes if it is likely, that is, if it is likely to be true, it is likely to be a result, but I have to say no in case it is not likely to be the result, or if I cannot figure out whether it is likely to be the result or not, right? So my answer is yes if I get a yes, and my answer is no if I get a no, or I get a CBD cannot be determined, right? So my answer is no in both the cases. Okay. Now let me look at the statements. The maximum diameter of the pipe the farmer could feasibly use between the pump and the water tank would be smaller. Now look, I have absolutely no information about how the diameter of the pipe and this rate of pulling water up are related. They are not given to me in the data at all, right? Even if I try to make out some logic that, okay, in case the pipes are wider, then they'll be able to, bring in more water. But then, you know what, it also depends on the speed with which the water comes up, because how much water you're, it's not just the cross section of the pipe. Yeah, there are other factors involved. The speed of the pipe is also relevant. That is what is going to give you the volume of the water that comes up. So that is why all I'm saying is that in case that data is not given to you, in case you're not explained how exactly a factor A affects factor B, don't try to use common sense or general knowledge over here, yeah, or don't try to recall your fluid mechanics basics on how this would be connected. Yeah, it is absolutely irrelevant. Don't waste your time doing that, because you've not been given that data over here. We are asked according to the information provided, right? So that is why I know that they did talk about the diameter of the pipe, etc., but that was when they are calculating the resistance from friction, yeah, which is relevant in this particular quantity, the 58 psi quantity. This has remained the same. It is still 58 psi only. So that is why this has changed, and how the diameter of the pipe is related to this, to the amount of water, is, I don't know. I've not been given. So here I'm just going to select no. Yeah. Look at this one, the maximum distance between the water tank and the ground would be smaller. So they're saying that this distance between the water tank and the ground. So this entire distance from this water tank to the ground, this they're saying should be smaller. Again, this is a relevant quantity when we are talking about the rating, right? We used it in the rating. We do have absolutely no idea what happens when the volume of water pumped per minute is changed, whether there is any role that this particular height plays. We've not been given how to calculate or on factors on which this particular thing depends, right? So again, my answer here will be no. And then the maximum distance between the irrigation system inlet and the ground would be smaller. So they're saying that this particular, which is 4 feet over here, from here till the ground, this would be smaller. Yet again, this distance plays a role only when I'm discussing the rating of the pump, which has stayed the same. So then, as far as since the new pump is going to have the same rating, again, there is no role to be played by this particular statement also. Of course, again, as I've said in the previous two statements, that this thing, that there is could be a role that is played in this 50 gallons per minute, which goes down to 40 gallons per minute. But how it is relevant, how it is related, that has not been given to me. So I cannot figure that out, right, from the data that is given to me. So, it is a CBD. I don't know. It cannot be determined from the given data. So my answer over here is just going to be no for all the three statements. Yeah? Does that make sense now? Let me know if you have any queries here. Are we good? Okay, great then. Let's go on to the next question in this same set. Yeah. Take a couple of minutes, try this one out. Yeah, Devanshi, that's good. Rob, try again. Okay, let's take a look at it. Assume the farmer's irrigation system has been completed as described. So here is our irrigation system. Yeah. If all other specifications remain unchanged, which one of the following changes would, if made, result in an increase in the pounds per square inch at the bottom pounds per square inch is simply PSI, right? Would result in an increase in the PSI. So I want to increase the PSI at the bottom of the pipe. At the bottom of the pipe between the water tank and the irrigation system. So will increase the PSI at the bottom of the pipe between, so that is this particular pipe that we are talking about. So they're saying that it will increase the PSI over here. So what is going to increase the PSI over here? Now, we discussed it when we were doing the first question, when we were reviewing when we were evaluating the question, that that 10 psi was the minimum required for this particular system, right? We had been given that minimum 10 psi is required, and we converted it to vertical feet because we were given that 0.43 psi. We get 0.43 psi in case we have a water column height of 1 foot, right? So then we said, okay, this should be at least 10 upon 0.43. Do you remember that, right? All right, so now they're saying that this has to increase the pressure, the PSI has to increase over here. Then what can lead to an increase of the pressure over here? Now, I know that the pressure will increase if the vertical height increases, because I have a pressure of 0.43 PSI for every 1 foot of vertical height. Yeah. So if I want to increase this, the total PSI, I have to increase the total height of the vertical column. Yeah. All right. So, there are various ways of doing that. I can, if I move the water tank higher, then, and use a longer pipe over here, then it will increase the PSI at the inlet of the irrigation system. Yeah. Or if I keep the water tank where it is, but I bring the irrigation system, the entire thing down, let's say I put it on the floor over here, for example, then again there'll be an additional, for example, it comes over here and this is 2 feet, so then there'll be an additional 2 feet of water column, right? So that will increase the PSI over here at the inlet, at the bottom of the pipe will become longer, right? So these are the ways in which I can increase the PSI at the end of the pipe, at the inlet of the irrigation system. Make sense? Okay, let's look at the options then. Increasing the height of the pump inlet. So they're saying increasing the height of the pump inlet. So they're saying that if I take the pump from there to there, and for example, here is this, then the pressure over here will increase. But look, that is not true, right? Because it doesn't matter what is happening on this side of the water tank. Do you understand that? What is happening on this side of the water tank is not impacting what is happening on this side of the water tank. Here, we are using the pump to bring the water up and to fill it in the water tank. After that, the pump is not doing absolutely anything. Now I have water in the water tank. Let's say I've filled up my water tank, and now gravity is going to take the water down to the irrigation system, right? So then, no matter whether I push the pump up or I push this pipe, let's say a little below or whatever, that will not impact. As long as this column of water stays the same height, it is going to have no impact, right? So pushing my pump up will have no impact of what is happening to the pressure over here. The pressure at the inlet of the irrigation system is decided by how much water is above that particular point, right? What is the length height of the water column, right? Okay, so this doesn't matter. Decreasing the height of the water tank. If my water tank comes down, that will reduce the pressure at the inlet pipe, because more, greater the height, more the pressure. So this is also incorrect. I want to increase the pressure at the inlet. Yeah. Now, increasing the number of gallons per minute the pump pumps. Now, gallons per minute, as we said, that calculation is not available anyway. I don't know, what defines that particular calculation. Anyway, what is happening at this point where the pump is pumping the water up and storing it in the water tank, it is not going to impact what happens over here, because here water is only going down. The pump is playing no part over here. Yeah, so again, this is also irrelevant. Now, decreasing the height of the irrigation system inlet. This makes sense. As we discussed, either we push the water tank up and increase the height, or I pull the irrigation system down, and that is how I increase the height of the water column, right? So for example, if here is my water tank, yeah, and so let's say here is the entire water tank, and then here is the irrigation system over here, yeah. If I pull it down to the ground, then the length of the pipe increases by 2 feet, which means that twice of 0.43 psi is increased, because the length of the entire water column, let's say the tank is full till the top, yeah, the length of the entire water column is now more. The height of the water column is more now, yeah. So then if I pull the irrigation system down, then definitely the PSI will increase, yeah. And decreasing the capacity of the water tank, now here I've been given something 10,000, yeah, water tank with 10,500 gallons of capacity. If I reduce the capacity, that does not mean that the pressure will reduce, because I've not been given that. Let's say the tank is cut like this, right? And I don't know, isn't it reducing the capacity? The height of the tank may stay as it is. Maybe it will become a little smaller like this, for example, right? So then again, this does not tell me that the pressure will increase at the inlet of the irrigation system, right? So this also doesn't work. Of course, my answer is going to be then this one, D. Yeah. Yeah. Decreasing the height of the water tank effect. Yes, decreasing the height of the water tank is going to affect, but then we're not looking at what is going to affect. We're looking at what is going to increase the pressure. Decreasing the height of the water tank is going to decrease the pressure at the inlet of the irrigation system. Yeah, if, as we said, if I pull this water tank from here to, if I bring it down over here, then the water pressure is going to be lower, because the water column height is lower. But my question asks me to increase the pressure at the inlet. My question says here the pressure, the PSI should increase, not decrease. Yeah. So what I'm, yeah. Okay, Devanshu, how much time would you suggest allocating to reading the source text for such a question? Yes, look, Devanshu, if you're getting a question like this, it means that you've been doing really well. It means that throughout, if you've done your other sections, that you've done really, really well, and that in this section also you're doing extremely well. So that is why, you should have time available for an MSR question. In any case, I suggest that you should give it 8 minutes for sure, because MSR questions will take more than 2 minutes per question. Do not expect yourself to do it within 6 minutes, which means that you do have about 4 to, let's say, 5 minutes to evaluate the tabs very properly, because once you've done that, then your questions become much easier, right? So you would typically need about, I would say, 4 to 5 minutes to evaluate such, the data of such a question. But then again, if you see such a question, you're likely doing really well. So that is why you will have the extra time. And let's say in case you are unable to solve such a question, let's say, it's just too hard for you, or there isn't sufficient time, then it's not going to impact your score much, because then it is harder than your level. Yeah. So the main point of your GMAT FE is to attempt everything to the best of your ability in a reasonable amount of time. The moment you lose sight of time management, that is when everything goes bad. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Ashna, we won't have the time to repeat everything, but the recording of the video of the webinar is going to be available to you for the next 15 days. So you can check it out in the account. Yeah, doesn't matter. Even if you have a trial account, it will be available to you for 15 days. And in case you're a subscriber, then anyway, the recording is going to be available of this webinar and of all the other webinars. So you won't have a problem in accessing it. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Now let's go on to the next question.